Hello, my friend. Stay a while and listen.
What's going on, guys? It's Filthy and I'm back with another video. Today we're looking at the current top monk build, which is the Patterns of Justice Tempest Rush monk. Now this build is pretty easy to play. You can get over 100 with about 800 Paragon fairly comfortably. It does use a season theme, so the cube is open, so we can make use of that. What I would say though is if you are checking this video out not on season 20, the swaps are pretty simple and you can run this build non-season and it functions pretty much the same. It's only maybe a couple of rift levels higher on this particular season. But before we jump in and go through everything, I just want to welcome anyone who's new to the channel. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. And as always guys, a thumbs up is greatly appreciated. And in the background I've got my GR100 clear. I think I had under 800 Paragon at the time. I've got a couple of nice gear pieces, but I still don't have best in slot for every item, but we'll go through it and I'll show you how the build works. And at the end I will talk about a couple of swaps that you can do if you're playing, let's say, off season or you're coming back here later. Now Patterns of Justice is obviously the set that was added last season. It is really good fun. I do like it a lot. Now this is probably my best find of the season so far, a pair of primal gloves, so thanks RNGs, these are practically perfect, so pretty happy with them. Now the two piece on Patterns of Justice, Sweeping Wind against the effect of every rune. That's not actually amazing, there aren't too many runes on there that I like, but we do get a 5% move speed for every stack of Sweeping Wind. And generally you can have 3 stacks, so that's 15%. Not amazing, but we'll take it, it is slightly helpful. Now the 4 piece, Tempest Rush will reduce our damage by 50%, so when we attack with it we get that damage reduction. We also get Spirit Regen by 50. Now this probably makes this build easier to play than the Samwuku version, albeit Samwuku off-season probably is a little bit stronger than this. But the extra Spirit Regen is amazing, it really does help us out quite a lot. Obviously 50% damage reduction is nice too. Now the 6 piece, Tempest Rush and Sweeping Wind, provided we have both of them going at the same time, we get this kind of increasing Sweeping Wind size and we get 15,000% damage. And that's on anything, so in theory we can take any supporting items with this, we can run whatever skill we want, but because obviously Sweeping Wind is close range, because of the state of the game at the moment, the most damaging items that support this are going to be Tempest Rush. So in the cube we have the balance. This will give us Tempest Rush increased damage by 600%. When we hit 3 or fewer enemies we get 100% critical hit chance, so really good for the Rift Guardian, really does mean that we can do a lot of damage. Now because the cube is open, the Wan Kim Lao we can actually put in here. This again gives us another 600%, and when we hit with Tempest Rush we activate Cyclone Strike. So this will suck enemies towards us and vortex them in, that's really nice. Bear in mind though, the Cyclone Strike is unruined, we don't get any rune because actually on this build we're not going to take it on the bar, but still another multiplier and pretty handy. Now the last item is going to be Caesar's Memento. This is the last thing we've got specifically for Tempest Rush. We get a huge damage increase up to 800% for 5 seconds, but you have to hit with a blind, a freeze or a stun. We're going to be going with blind because we're going to be taking Blinding Flash, Faith of the Light on the bar. Now this is a skill, so we get to choose when to activate this, but once we do we also get this 29% increased damage for 3 seconds, so this is going to be our kind of way of activating our damage. Now Tempest Rush, we're actually going to take the Cold Rune, we're going to go for Flurry. What this does is when we attack we build up stacks, so if we hold down Tempest Rush we get little stacks at the bottom and they cap out at 100. Now once we've got 100 stacks that's maximum damage, and then we will use the Blind Faith to detonate the damage. So you click this, you get the extra 29% and you get the blind, so you proc your Caesar's Memento and you deal mega damage. Now with that in mind, because we damage at a specific point in time, i.e. we choose when to detonate our stacks, a convention of elements becomes very important. When we get to the cold cycle, like now, that would be a perfect time to detonate, preferably as many stacks as possible for maximum damage. Now what we can do is we do know that physical comes before cold, so what I tend to do is when I'm glancing at the bar, if I see him on physical then I know I'm getting ready to release my flurry stacks, and that's kind of when I'll try and get in position. The other ring we're going to take is going to be an Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac. This actually is fundamental to the build for a couple of reasons. First off, what happens is when we hit with the Resource Spender we get 1 second off our skill cooldowns. We've got 2 that we're really looking out for. So Epiphany Desert Shroud will give us 50% damage reduction and also give us some spirit regen, but it's a damage reduction that is really handy, so you want to try and keep this up as much as possible. So more hits with Tempest Rush mean more Epiphany uptime. But we also have Ascension. So Serenity Ascension, this gives us a kind of 4 seconds of complete damage immunity and complete crowd control immunity. So when you pop this, absolutely nothing can touch you and you're essentially immortal, invulnerable, and nothing can move you about. Now this is amazing because what it means is that you can pop this and then detonate your stacks within 4 seconds, so it will allow you to get in position. So let's say you're on physical, you want to move into cold and detonate, well you can pop this and it means you can run through arcane lasers, it means you can run through explosions, it means you're immune to being knocked about because any kind of manipulation of your character will drop your Tempest Rush stacks. So knockback, any kind of sucking in mechanic will drop them for you, you know, any kind of wormhole, anything like that. So this Ascension is really handy because it means that you can build up some stacks, you can press the button, you've then got 4 seconds to detonate without being interrupted, so it is pretty nice. Now we're also going to be mixing this with the Captain Crimson set, so the 2-piece will give us life per second, doesn't really matter too much. 20% cooldown is obviously great because of those 2 skills we've just talked about, we want them available as much as possible. We also get 20% resource cost reduction. This in of itself isn't too important, you can run the build absolutely fine without the Crimson set, you don't need a lot of resource cost because of the Patterns of Justice extra spirit regen. But if we look at the 3-piece Crimsons, the way it works is we get more damage every time we add cooldown to the character, and we get more toughness every time we add resource cost reduction. Now I champion this set an awful lot because as a casual player it's very nice to kind of manipulate your character around. So if you add cooldown, you just do more damage, and if you take more resource cost rolls, well, you're making your character tougher. So for instance, I've gone for a Topaz in the helm. That's not because I need the resource cost reduction, it's just another 12.5% damage reduction is pretty handy. And again, the way it works I think is it's additive, so 12.5% extra on top of what you already have does actually boost you up toughness wise quite a bit. But certainly a set that I like. Now you do have to take the belt, but other than that you just want to roll yourself a nice pair. Now you find the plans in bounties, so you can pretty much get a pretty good pair, you've just got to keep rolling at them and they will drop eventually. Now the main change for this season, for season 20, is we can take the Little Rogue and Slanderer swords. What they'll do is they'll give us an extra 6% attack speed, damage and armour, stacking 5 times, so 30% damage, attack speed and also extra toughness. Really handy. It does mean we can go a few levels higher because obviously we do have the 1 Kim Lao in the cube. Now if we're playing this not on season, then we're going to have to take the 1 Kim Lao on the character, and something like this would be absolutely perfect. A sword that gives us extra 20% cold damage and also a chance to freeze, which would be kind of handy bearing in mind the season memento. So off season this is probably your best in slot weapon, but you can also go for a Vengeful Wind and increase up your move speed because that will allow you to stack Sweeping Wind 13 times. So again, that's pretty nice as well. But on season, definitely these 2 weapons seem to be the way to go. And then lastly, for the Amulet slot, you probably want Flavour of Time. Well, you definitely want Flavour of Time, that is best in slot. It will give us a double pylon effect, which is really nice. I haven't found a decent amulet on my monk yet, I have been plugging away. I've just this morning got this one, Flavour of Time. I'm probably going to keep this for a Demon Hunter though, because the 20% physical and double crit would be really good for multi-shot, provided I pick the physical rune, so I'll probably save that. I'm going to keep looking for another amulet. But bear in mind, I have cleared over 100 pretty comfortably with this Traveller's Pledge, which isn't great, you know, it's not even double crit, so it does show that the build is pretty easy. Now legendary gem wise, we're going to take a Taeguk. This will give us more damage and more toughness whilst we channel, obviously complete no brainer. Pretty easy to keep up as well. And then we're also going to go for a Bane of the Trapped. Now what will happen, obviously when we activate our Blinding Flash, because that is a CC, it means that we benefit from the Trapped, so whenever we do actually stop to do the damage, we're going to have this multiplier up. Obviously it doesn't apply to Juggernaut, but again, still pretty useful. Now the final legendary gem at the moment, with the kind of under 800 Paragon, around the kind of 100 level, I'm finding that Bane of the Powerful is fine, as in I can one-shot the Rift Guardian with all my stacks, or maybe sometimes mop it up with a second blast. At some point though, you will obviously have to swap over to the Stricken. The Stricken will give you extra damage against the boss, and as you build up your Tempest Rush stacks up to 100, you're going to be building Stricken stacks as well. So the idea is that at any point the Rift Guardian shouldn't be causing you too many problems, because you can have this huge detonation, and it's not like a case of you're going to get through the Rift, struggle, and then get to the Rift Guardian. It's going to be a real difficult fight. It should be over pretty quickly. So in terms of the skills, we've pretty much covered everything. We've talked about Tempest Rush, Blinding Flash, Serenity Ascension. Sweeping Wind, you get every rune, so it doesn't matter, you can pick any rune you like, it doesn't make any difference. Mantra of Salvation, this is actually really handy for the build because we're stacking so much armour, because of the way that the Little and Slanderer work, because just our armour is just generally very high as a monk anyway. Any kind of all res we can get will be very handy, so we do take all res gems in the gear, and then this Mantra of Salvation will buff that up even more. Now again, we have plenty of resources, you can activate this quite a lot, so you can just pop it every few seconds when the bar runs out and just refresh yourself up with some extra resistances, so it is pretty handy. It does increase our toughness quite a lot. And Epiphany, Desert Shroud, again, we've already talked about. For the passives, Beacon of Utah, 20% cooldown is more damage, it is more uptime on Epiphany and more access to Ascension, so pretty good. The Guardian's Path allows us, whilst we dual wield, to get a 35% dodge chance. That's obviously pretty good. It's completely RNG, sometimes you'll dodge an attack, sometimes you won't. We also get some spirit regen, so again, not too shabby. Near Death Experience, this is very handy because you want to detonate at the end of Cold Cycle with 100 stacks. Sometimes you might have to take a death to do that, you might have to go through something pretty nasty, you might not have access to Ascension, so again it just seems to make a lot of sense. And then finally, this is one of the absolutely amazing passives for the monk. Again, because our armour is stacked so high, we basically get more all res out of this, so 40% of our single elemental resistances are added. So ideally you want elemental resistant secondaries on as many gear pieces as you can, but obviously that's easier said than done. So in terms of stats, obviously cooldown is a priority for damage, resource cost reduction is a priority for toughness, double crit obviously is handy, and then main stat. Now area damage again is okay, it is something that you certainly can roll for. At the moment I don't have any, so I can't say that I've specifically tested it with or without area damage, but I certainly wouldn't be rolling it off, it probably would be pretty useful. Other than that, Tempest Rush damage will go on your helm and also on your boots, and then again cold on braces and also on Amulet if you can get it. Other than that guys, it's just your normal kind of standard stuff. Build your character up with as much toughness and as much damage as you can. And in terms of Paragon points, you just need move speed up to 25, you don't need anything in max spirit, and then dump everything else into dex. And obviously the rest of them you're just going to be filling them out, but cooldown would probably be my number one pick. Then crit hit damage, because obviously we get that kind of crit hit chance bonus off the balance, and then attack speed. Defense, all res obviously is going to be the absolute number one pick, and after that probably life percent armor, life regen. And utility, area damage number one, probably life per hit number two, resource cost reduction's not too important because of all the stuff we've got, and then lastly gold find. Now what I would say about this guys, it's pretty easy to play. You've only got really the kind of one mechanic to think about. You've got some buffs that you do want to activate, so when I go into the Rift I'll pop Sweeping Wind as soon as you get to an enemy, then you basically pop Epiphany and you Tempest Rush away until you get to 100 stacks, preferably on cold, and then you click Blinding Flash and it will detonate. You just basically use Mantra of Salvation when you need it to buff up your toughness, so you can just pop it repeatedly, you've got the spirit to do so. Now again, top clear probably will be taking a cooldown gem here rather than a topaz, but again it just kind of depends on your own personal preferences. I don't like dying, I like being tough and tanky, so I do tend to go for a couple of resource cost rolls if I can pick them up. And obviously guys, I'm pretty keen to get this sword on the character because again, it's just how I enjoy the game. I like finding primals and using them in the season, so I don't know, maybe I'll swap back to the non-season push build, don't know, I'll sleep on it. That's it guys, I hope you've enjoyed the video. The build is a lot of fun to play, it's quite good for speed farming. I've done previous guides on that, so I'm not going to cover that here. I will be making some more Season 20 content soon. I've rolled a Witch Doctor and now a Demon Hunter, so there will be some more build guides coming. I'm trying to get as many done as I can, but obviously with COVID it is pretty difficult, but we'll just do our best. But anyway, I hope you're all well, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you soon. Take it easy, peace.